Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to break down a really simple but super powerful economic concept. It's one that can make things look way better or, honestly, way worse than they actually are. It's called the base effect. So to see what I mean, let's just jump right in with a real-world puzzle. Take India's economy during the pandemic. In 1 year, it shrank a lot. But then, the very next year, the numbers showed this massive boom. So how on earth does a swing that dramatic even happen? The key to this whole puzzle isn't just about what happened. It's about how we measure it. First, let's just look at the raw numbers that got everyone talking. So, for the 2020-21 fiscal year, right at the height of the COVID shock, India's GDP, that's the total value of everything the country produced, it dropped. It had a negative growth of 7.3%. Now, that was a really rare and pretty significant contraction. The economy literally got smaller. And then the very next year, 2021-22, the official number was a pretty staggering 8.7% in growth. So you go from a major shrink to a huge boom. On the surface, it looks like this incredible comeback story. But is it telling us the whole story? Well, the key to unlocking this lies in one single concept. And that one concept, the thing that cracks this whole puzzle wide open, is called the base effect. Once you get this, you'll start to see how numbers in the news can sometimes, create an illusion.
In a nutshell, the base effect is what happens when we calculate a percentage change using a starting point or a base that was kind of weird to begin with. So if that base number was abnormally low, any growth is going to look huge. And if it was abnormally high, any growth might seem tiny. It really is all about your starting point.
Think about it like this. Let's say you're 5'8", okay? If you stand next to someone who's 6'2", you're probably going to feel a little short. But what if you stand next to someone who's 5'2"? All of a sudden, you look tall. Now here's the most important part. Your actual height never changed, not by a single inch. The only thing that changed was the comparison point, the base. Okay, so let's take that really simple idea and apply it back to our economic puzzle about India's GDP. This is where it all clicks. So here's what actually happened. In 2020-2021, the pandemic forced the economy to shrink, right? That created an abnormally low base. Then, the next year, as things started to reopen, the economy grew, but it was growing from that much smaller size. Because that starting point was so low, even just a decent recovery ended up looking like a massive percentage gain. And you can see it perfectly right here. That jump from the low bar in 2020-21 to the next year's bar, that's the recovery. But because that first bar is so much lower than it should have been, the percentage growth it represents, that flashy 8.7%, it looks way more dramatic than if the economy had just grown from a normal, higher starting point. Let's make it even more personal. Imagine your pocket money gets cut from 100 rupees down to 50. Ouch. The next year, it gets raised to 75 rupees. Now, on paper, that's a spectacular 50% growth rate. But here's the catch, right? You're still getting 25 rupees less than you were 2 years ago. That's the base effect in action, a huge growth rate that's actually hiding an incomplete recovery.
And this isn't just a GDP thing. No way. The exact same illusion can pop up when we're talking about another number you hear all the time, inflation, which is just the rate at which prices are rising.
Yeah, this same little distortion happens with inflation. Let's say last year there was a global oil crash, so fuel prices were unusually low. This year, they just go back to normal. Well, because we're comparing this year's normal price to that super low base from last year, the inflation rate looks terrifying, 50% in this example. Same thing could happen if, say, a huge harvest crashes food prices 1 year, only for them to return to normal the next. So, why are we spending all this time on this? Well, because being able to spot the base effect isn't just some neat party trick. It's a critical skill for actually understanding what's going on in the world. When we miss the base effect, we can get a completely warped picture of reality. A weak recovery can be spun as a powerful boom. A simple return to normal prices can be made to look like scary runaway inflation. Understanding this is absolutely vital, not just for the analysts and policymakers making huge decisions, but for all of us just trying to make sense of the headlines. And this brings us to the single most important question you should ask yourself from now on.
Anytime you see some startling percentage in the news, doesn't matter if it's GDP, inflation, company profits, whatever, just pause for a second and ask, is this change telling the whole story, or could the base effect be at play here?
All right, let's see if you've got it. We're going to put your new superpower to the test with a real question from a civil services exam. Let's see how you do. Okay, here's the question. A rapid increase in inflation is sometimes attributed to the base effect. What is base effect? Is it A, about a lack of supply, B, about a surge in demand, or C, about the impact of the previous year's price levels on the calculation? Take a second to think it over.
And the correct answer is, of course, C. The base effect is all about how the previous year's price levels, the base, affect how we calculate the current rate. If you have an abnormally low base last year, it's going to make this year's inflation number look artificially high. You got it? So in the end, it doesn't matter if you're looking at your own height, your pocket money, or an entire country's economy. The story the numbers tell depends completely on their starting point. And the base effect is just a powerful reminder that in economics, and let's be honest, probably in life, context is everything.